Red leather, yellow leather.
Red leather, yellow leather.
Unique is New York.
New York is unique. Unique is New York.
There you go. How was your week? Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
A couple of small fires. It looks like I may have to attend to, but nothing I don't think I can handle.
Went hiking yesterday with our oldest grandson, and I realized how out of shape I am. Going straight uphill, I said, "We got to stop a minute."
Nothing wrong with knowing your limitation.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you ready?
I think so.
All right, here we go.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Wayne County. We are a diverse congregation that welcomes you as you are, regardless of your age, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, economic status, or physical ability. We come together to seek deeper meaning and understanding from each other and the world around us. Your presence here today is a gift that brings us closer to that understanding. We are an active community that lives its values beyond the hours of Sunday service, and I would like to call your attention to the following. Join the humanist group in the large group room after the service as Letty Nolt leads a discussion on a woman's choice. Notice of the annual meeting. May 21st, following our regular service, we will be voting on a new slate of board and LDT members and our 23-24 budget. We hope you will join us. Remember, we welcome all members and friends to attend our annual meeting, but only members who have signed the membership book within the last 60 days can vote. Thank you. If you'd like to find out more about our activities, feel free to ask Karen Skubik, our membership coordinator, after the service.
Thank you, Jean, and good, beautiful spring morning to all of you. This is when we welcome visitors, and I'm not sure if there's any here today, but if there's anyone here that's never introduced themselves and they would like to do so people know who you are and maybe can say your name when they chat with you after the service, you're welcome to have the microphone handed to you and stand up and announce who you are. But is there anyone who would like to do that? You don't have to. No, I didn't think so, but good to see all of you here today. Thank you.
So before we begin our service this morning, I have a special announcement. I wanted to take just a minute to recognize a longtime member, Ruth Dykstra. Ruth has been a member of our community for 40 years, even more, and has served the congregation in so many different capacities in that time, working with the youth, leading services, leadership, as well as working with social justice. Ruth has done a lot to make UUFWC what it is today. And Ruth is going to be moving to Vermont. Ruth, we are going to miss you. You're going to be leaving sometime over this summer, around June, I understand. And I would like, if we could, just to take a moment to thank Ruth for all of the work she's done and to bless her forward on her journey as she comes to get closer to family. Ruth, can you stand up or just wave your hand? Thank you so much, Ruth, for all you have done and the mark you have left on all of us. You are a gift. I now ask you, friends, to ready yourselves, get centered. Please put your cell phones in worship mode as we begin our time together.
Our chalice lighting this morning is for Courage by John Donahue. When the light around lessens and your thoughts darken until your body feels fear turn cold as a stone inside, when you find yourself bereft of any belief in yourself and all you unknowingly leaned on has fallen, when one voice commands your whole heart and it's raven dark, steady yourself and see that it is your own thinking that darkens your world. Search and you will find a diamond thought of light. Know that you are not alone and that the darkness has a purpose. Gradually, it will school your eyes to find the one gift your life requires, hidden within this night corner. Invoke the learning of every suffering you have suffered. Close your eyes, gather all the kindling about your heart to create one spark. That is all you need to nourish the flame that will cleanse the dark of its weight and festered fear. A new confidence will come alive to urge you towards higher ground, where your imagination will learn to engage difficulty as its most rewarding threshold.
Let's now rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, Comfort Me. We found in 1002 in your teal hymnal.
Dance with morning, happy spring again. It's just beautiful. Almost feels like summer sometimes now, but I won't jinx it. We are going to share a story right now this morning, and I want to take an opportunity to invite anybody who would like to come up and be just a little closer. There's plenty of chairs, or you can sit on the floor. Come on up. Come on up. All right. So while you come on up. I know you see. You're not supposed to see that. You're peeking behind the scenes for that Wonder Box. The Wonder Box is full of empty delightfulness, but emptiness this morning. No Wonder Box today. So this morning, our worship service is talking about pastoral care and the pastoral care team here at this congregation. And that's kind of just words for there are people in this congregation who take the time and open their hearts and get some training and learn about how to be good listeners and how to help support everybody else in the congregation when they have an opportunity that they need support or they want to come and ask for help, okay, and maybe help them figure out what they need, all right? So we will dedicate this story to those wonderful people who are doing that for us in our congregation and inspiring us in our community. Today's story is called, it's not up there anymore, but that's all right. It's called One Flower in a Field. One Flower in a Field. So there was a field, and it was full of dry grass and bramble and thistles, sharp, pokey things. But also in this field, there were flowers coming up out of the field. And there was daisies and sunflowers. What other flowers might you see in a field? Anybody?
Sunflowers.
What else? Anybody see flowers in a field? What kind?
Dandelions.
Dandelions, yeah, like that field right there, right? That field's not dry and grassy, and cone flowers, just all sorts of bright, beautiful things, right? So you might wonder, if this field was all dry, how did these flowers grow? Well, next to every flower, there was a hole in the ground. What do you suppose was in that hole in the ground? Yes?
A seed.
Well, yes, there were probably seeds in the holes in the ground so flowers would grow. But there was an animal that lived in every hole next to every flower. There might be rabbits, a groundhog, good suggestion, hedgehogs, mice, little field mice. So every flower had an animal, and every day that flower would go to the river that ran along the edge of the field, this little stream, and take a leaf and fill it up with water and come back and water its flower. Well, there was a rabbit who had a beautiful flower that they loved. It was a sunflower. Sometimes sunflowers can get this big, right? Yes, Martha.
When I was at my dad's house, it got so huge, it went to my sister's room in the window.
Is that true? Yes. So this rabbit had that flower, and every day the rabbit went down to the stream, got a little leaf full of water, and came back and watered their sunflower, right? Well, then they went about the rest of their day just kind of playing in the fields, as rabbits will do. And one day they decided to go up to the top of the hill, and they looked around and they saw something they had never seen before. Never. They'd heard about it, but never seen it. There was a flower, might have been a daisy, that did not look well. It was kind of droopy and wilty and not in very good shape. So they were kind of worried about that and wondering how could that happen? That was just a mystery. Well, it really wasn't a big mystery, right? The rabbit had just never climbed up to the top of that hill before and hadn't actually looked. They'd heard stories that maybe there were flowers that were wilty and not doing so well, but they'd never actually looked beyond their own part of the field before. But now they had. She took a closer look, And she started to understand. The ground was all cracked and dry and parched, and there was a hole next to it, but clearly it hadn't seen any water in quite a while. How could that happen? And so then, she did nothing. She went back home and got up every day and went to the stream and watered her beautiful flower. And then went up to the top of the hill and checked to see how things were going over there. And nothing changed. That flower got wiltier and droopier, and she couldn't stop thinking about it. And she'd check every day, but she thought, I have enough work to do watering my own flower. And, there are other people who are supposed to do this. But it's starting to get to her. In fact, it was starting to make her a little irritable. It was keeping her up at night. Like, not irritable because no one else was doing it, but irritable because this was bothering her and that it was keeping her up at night. And so she said, well, what do I do? I can't stand this anymore. I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm going to do something about it. But she was a little nervous. So she went up to the top of the hill and she twitched her nose. Can you twitch your nose like a rabbit? Smelling around. She said, all right. Went back down to the stream, got some water, and came up and very slowly went over to the other flower. And as she got closer, closer than she'd ever been before, a hedgehog jumped out and said, what are you doing? It's my flower. Why are you here? Because this flower is really wilty and doesn't look very good and it needs help. And it's not your flower, it's my flower, and you can't just go into other people's yards and water their flowers for them. And she said, this flower's gonna die if I don't, and I've already thought of that option, and I can't do that. So I don't have an option anymore. I've thought about the option a lot, about doing nothing, and I had a lot of good reasons why I was gonna do nothing, but no, it's not working anymore for me. So that hedgehog kind of mumbled and grumbled, but didn't stop her from doing it, And so every day she'd go water her sunflower, and then she'd go back and get more water, and would go back and water this daisy. And pretty soon the daisy started to perk up a little bit. Started to get new leaves, another flower bud started coming out, and it started looking a little better. And the hedgehog still complained a lot about this whole thing and coming in and taking care of my flower and watering my flower. But that's all right. She knew that that was what she needed to do. Well, strangely enough, as this flower got bigger and stronger, other flowers in the field started to get bigger and stronger and brighter and taller. Her own sunflower just kept growing and growing. And she wondered, why do you think that was? She wondered, is it possible that if you water one flower and pay attention to that flower, that other flowers might get bigger too? Or maybe other animals were running around sneaking water to other flowers after they saw her sneaking water to that flower. Who knows? But all the flowers were growing brighter. Maybe we can try that, right? With the flowers in our field, in our own fields, give them a little bit more water. Stories are just where we start, and that's the end of our story, but we get to take these stories home. Do you have dry fields? Anybody got dry fields, brambles and pricklers and wilty flowers and bright flowers? So the story is not the answer. The story gives us a time we can think about the answers. If you see that, maybe you could do that. There's one more question I wonder that we always should think about stories when we hear them and take them home. Whose voices don't we hear in these stories? Whose voice didn't we hear in this story? The flowers. We didn't hear the flowers. We really don't know how the flowers were feeling. That's one thing I take from this story. It's a great story, and it gives me something else I can take with me to add to it when I take it into my world. There's so many rainbows being colored down here right now. Just for those of you who don't know, there are rainbows everywhere. The congregation really thanks everybody in the RE community for joining us during this first part of the worship service, the adults and the children and the youth. And we're glad you're here. And I would like to invite you all to sing the children's blessing as they move on out now into their exploratory time. Thank you.
Going to be talking about pastoral care today. And to start us off, I would like to invite up Chris Struzik, who is the chair currently of our lay pastoral care team, who will speak on the importance of lay pastoral care.
Thank you, Walter. Good morning, folks. My name is Chris, and I am very happy to represent the lay pastoral care team today. At the risk of sounding or stating the obvious, every one of us has a shared humanity. Each of us experiences our life for better or worse, for richer or poorer, sickness and in good health. And we do so moment by moment, conversation by conversation. More often than not, if we're lucky, we feel that life is good, right? I'm not jumping for joy nor down in the dumps, but it's a beautiful sunny day. My garden is looking great. The Guardians game is on this afternoon, so I'm happy. That's my happy place. But the connected moments in our life aren't linear. Sometimes we are really content and happy, but other moments we feel impacted by the continuous bad news in the world, an upsetting conversation, feedback from a medical exam, feeling not being accepted, or being alone, and so many other situations that come and go in our life. Often these moments are remedied by a conversation with a family member or a good friend. Perhaps silent relaxation and meditation can help things balance out for you. But it's not uncommon to look for consolation and support within our church community. And this is where your lay pastoral care ministry can be of service to you, possibly. The charge of the pastoral care team is to offer a ministry of support, listening, comfort in time of illness, stress, transition, and special need. We create connections with others as we offer compassion through the time we spend with our partners. Our mission is to nurture a spirit of hope and caring that reaches out to all. Working closely with our minister, Reverend Walter, our team works together to identify situations that need caring attention and strive to meet those needs, to support and visit those who are unable to attend church regularly, support families and friends involved in caregiving, and provide mutual support and fellowship for one another. This past year, we have directly served nearly 24 individuals in our UU community, some with simple conversations in person or over the phone. Others we support on a more purposeful, periodic, or routine basis, strictly based on the need or request of the care seeker. Every conversation remains confidential within the ministry. As a committee, we meet monthly to check in and support each other and provide updates as appropriate. It can sometimes be difficult to be a caregiver, so we are also there for each other. This brought to mind a short poem by Emily Dickinson. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto its nest again, I shall not live in vain. In the spirit of our communal ministry and to renew our commitment to our service to you, our congregation, I now ask each of the lay pastoral caregivers to come to the front and be reinstalled to our ministry. Those are Gail Woosley, Gail's here, Sue Gross, Cheryl Wirtz, Reverend Walter, and Steve Berg is also part of our ministry, but he is serving us this morning with RE teaching. So he's out with the kids. So thank you very much.
So I need you all to imagine Gail is here. And I need you all to imagine Steve. These are presences most of us know, and let's not forget them in this moment. And most of you know Cheryl and Sue, who are two of the most beautiful souls I have ever met in my life. And I'm sure most of you already, I know, it's hard for you to take the compliment. And it's true. And these are the people who are going to be loving fiercely. And we're going to recommission all of them, Gail and Steve as well, with this ritual. Caregivers, pastoral care associates, I ask you this. Will you commit to the role of pastoral care associate in your words and in your actions? Will you listen openly without judgment to others in need? Will you create spaces for others that allow them to face life difficulties and with courage and with hope? Will you strive to be a healing presence for those in need and keep the struggles of those you work with in sacred confidence? If so, say, I will. Congregants and friends, you too have a role in this. Will you place your trust in these caregivers? Will you work to be strong enough to ask for help? To ask for a listening presence or an open heart should the need arise? Will you remember that engaging in sacred community means to bring your whole self and to lean on each other in times of need? If you are prepared to do this, say, I will. Caregivers, you have been entrusted with a sacred bond by this congregation to hold their woes and worries, to be present in times of both discernment and desperation. By doing so, you hold our community together. By securing relationships within this congregation, you are creating sacred space of trust and of vulnerability that allows this community to flourish. Honor that trust always. Friends, I present to you your lay pastoral care team. Thank you. Thank you. I was going to ask Gail Woosley to stay up here for this next part. However, I am going to ask Ivy Sorkin to come up. This congregation has the honor of being one of the flagship congregations regarding the commissioned lay ministry program. How many of you know about the CLM program? All right, we got a few hands. This is good. You know, one of the people who helped to really start this program and was a big advocate of it and still is, right? This woman named Elaine Strawn. Maybe you've heard of her? Kinda. This is a program that's designed to support and strengthen congregational lay leaders through continuing education and mentorship. These leaders deepen their understanding of select areas of ministry to further the mission of both the congregation and our faith. And this program was started 1976 by Gordon McKeeman. I got to call him Bucky. Bucky McKeeman in the Akron congregation. This program, the CLM program, has been the crown jewel of the Ohio Meadville District. And it has been expanding to congregations nationally. Nationally. And this congregation has a history of being very welcoming to people who are looking to be CLMs and deeply loving them. Before the pandemic, we had 3 CLMs that served this congregation: Gail, Ivy, and Steve. Ivy has retired from the program. Ivy has done the most ministerial thing possible and taken care of her own needs. And Ivy still has this training. It hasn't left her, right? And it never will. So she may not be officially a CLM, but she's always going to be in our hearts as a leader, isn't she, folks? And Gail has been the sole stalwart, sticking around doing wonderful work until now. Gail is no longer alone. I would like to announce that we have a new candidate in our congregation for certified or credentialed lay ministry. Over the next few years, this person will be doing a lot of reading and a lot of work within this congregation as they go through the commissioning process. And I know this congregation will love and support them as they go forward. And I would like to introduce them to you so they can tell you a little bit about their ministry. Pat, will you step forward, please?
Can you hear me? I am so happy to do this. I've been coming to this congregation since 2017, and Gail and Bonnie were the first connection I made here because we have mutual friends in the congregation, in the community. And so I talked with Gail about, what is this CLM thing that you do? Why do you get to wear one of those things? And so she told me about the program, and I remember thinking, when I signed the book in 2018, I remember thinking, maybe someday, I think I might like to do that. So the first of this year, I talked with Reverend Walter and said, what do you think? And he said yes. And so I am, since January, I have been working on this process, getting approved by the council, getting approved by this person back here, talking with Elaine Strawn, who is currently a co-president of the council, meeting my mentor, who is a retired UU minister in Columbus. So I decided, and I had to tell this to everybody, why do I want to do this? I had to look deep. Why do I want to do this? I want to do it because I want to help in a meaningful way you all, because I just think you're so special and important. I also want to deepen my understanding and knowledge of UU philosophy and culture. And I believe that my personal skill set and my passion will help me to be a success in helping you. So 10 or 12 years ago, I began to research elderhood. I don't use the term senior citizen. I don't like that. We're more than citizens. And I don't use old people because I don't feel old. I don't know about you, but on good days anyway, I don't feel old. So I use the term elder and elderhood. Just so you know, that's who I'm talking about, are my cohort, people with lovely silver hair. My area of focus then will be under the umbrella of pastoral care, but it will be working with the elders in our congregation. And the first thing I would like to do is begin a discussion group for we elders. And I want it to be, and by the way, there's no minimum age. I mean, if you feel like you're an elder, then you're welcome to join. Or if you're soon going to be an elder. Or if you love an elder and want to help them and understand what they're facing, what they're going through. So I would like to start this discussion group, and a group that would be self-led. I wouldn't lead it, I just would do the administrative work of it, and we would agree on what topics we want to discuss at each monthly meeting. I already have a doctor from our community, Dr. Dana Benezzi, has agreed to come and speak to this group on aging and wellness. I have already asked and received a yes from our Sarah Miles, who, if we're interested, will talk to us about what happens after the body is dead, the policies and procedures around all of that. She told me something interesting just yesterday, that she has had two, I don't know if you know who Sarah Miles is, but she's a mortician. She has had 2 people buried in their own property. And I said, oh, isn't that against the law? And she said, no, it's not against the law, depending on what town or what township you live in. So my vision for the group is for us to share our wisdom. When I told Elaine and Reverend Walter about my hope for this group, the response was, there's so much wisdom in elders that we often don't get to hear because they tend to be quiet. And so I'm excited for us to share our wisdom. So if you are interested, and if you'll meet with me briefly in the lobby after the service, I have just a short form for you to fill out with contact information. And as soon as I get that all together, I will be calling you or emailing you, and we'll get started. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all. Just wanted to say thank you.
Our faith is centered in the belief that we can make this world a better place for all who dwell in it. In order to realize that vision, we need both the motivation and the means. Your donation helps the community put its faith into action by supporting our programming and facilities. This morning and throughout the month of April, donations that are not designated for another purpose will be split with Trinity UCC breakfasts. Each weekday, Trinity UCC serves a free hot breakfast in their fellowship hall to anyone in the Worcester community. The offering will now be collected and gratefully received. Please join me in unison reading the words on the screen. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
Please join me now in the spirit of meditation, of centering. I encourage you to look out the windows. On a day like today, how could you not? I want you to look at all the little bits of green that are starting to come up on these trees. How some of them are flowering. I want you to look at all of those little bits of possibility that are right there. I want you to think about what you've done this weekend. Have you had a chance to go dig in your garden? Were you outside? Were you enjoying the weather? I want you to hold on to that feeling. Hold on to that feeling of being out in the sun. Hold on to that feeling of that blue sky. Hold on to that feeling of things are good. Because there's a storm coming. I talked to a lot of people this morning who said, this weather's not going to last. It's going to get cold. It's going to storm. Of course it is. It's always going to storm at some point in time. And remember that when the storms come, that this will come back. That those buds are not only going to still be there, but they might even be bigger after that storm. Remind yourself that sometimes that cold snap kills off some of those nasty critters that we need to get rid of. And sometimes it's just a cold snap. There is always a sunny day, even if it's not today. Hold on to that. Storms don't last forever. May it be so. As we think about the joys and the sorrows in our community, I'm thinking very much of the city of Akron. The city of Akron seems to be on lockdown. They've canceled collegiate classes because they're worried about what's going to happen with the grand jury verdict in regards to the killing of an unarmed black man by police officers. And it's a story we are very familiar with. Our hearts go out to everyone in that city. For the folks who don't feel safe from the forces meant to protect and serve, and from those who sit on those forces to protect and serve who want to do nothing but preserve the well-being of those they protect. We hold all of the people who just get caught in the crossfires. And we want justice for every single one and care for every single being. And I encourage you to participate in our Joys and Sorrows ritual this morning. If there is a sorrow that weighs on your heart, big or small, while we sing Spirit of Life, come to this wonderful altar table. Take a stone, put your sorrow onto it, and let it go, knowing that the community will hold you. And if you have a joy, I'm starting to hear a lot of talk of people having babies. If you have a joy that you want to lift up, that brightens your step, put it in this stone and drop it in the water to share with us all. I now invite you to come forward as you are comfortable as we sing together, Spirit of Life.
Our reading this morning is Mending by Nancy Schaefer. How shall we mend you, sweet soul? What shall we use, and how is it in the first place you've come to be torn? Come, sit, come tell me. We will find a way to mend you. I would offer you so much, sweet soul, this banana, sliced in rounds of palest yellow atop hot cereal, or these raisins scattered in it if you'd rather. Would offer cellos in the background singing melodies Vivaldi heard and wrote for us to keep. Would hold out to you everything colored blue or lavender or light green. All of this I would offer you, sweet soul. All of it, or any piece of it, might mend you. I would offer you, sweet soul, this chair by the window, this sunlight on the floor and a cat asleep in it. I would offer you my silence, my presence, all this love I have, and my sorrow you've become torn. How shall we mend you, sweet soul? With these, I think, gently, we can begin. We will mend you with a rocking chair, some raisins, a cat, a field of lavender beginning now to bloom. We will mend you with songs remembered entirely the first time ever they are heard. We will mend you with pieces of your own sweet self, sweet soul, with what you've taught from the very beginning.
How shall I mend you, sweet soul? How are you doing? I'm fine. Good. How are you doing? We know that question. What's the response, right? I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good. How are you? I'm fine. And to be honest, most of us don't expect any other response except, I'm fine. How are you? How you doing? I'm fine. How are you? Good. How are you? You just asked. And most of us are really good in practice with that response, right? How many of you can have the worst day in your life and have the cashier at Kroger, Aldi's, I'll go with Aldi's. How are you doing? I'm fine. I'm really not fine. But it's practice, right? And then how many of you have that friend, or are that friend, who can spot the lie? How many of you are so practiced at knowing that when your friend says, I'm fine, and they don't quite make the same eye contact they normally do, you know something's up? Or just by the timbre of their voice, instead of, I'm fine, it's, I'm fine. Small difference, but oh, wait, hold on. What's up? How many of you know that feeling, right? What's going on? What's up? Again, rote response. There's two responses to that. Really, I'm fine. Code language. I can't talk about this right now. Or, I don't want to talk to you about this right now because maybe I don't feel we have that relationship. But it's usually, it's a defensive wall, right? And you know that that is huge in this culture. How many of us, when we're feeling in that place, when we're feeling vulnerable, when something is weighing on us, are told by this little voice in the back of our brain that we can't stand, you're not allowed to be vulnerable right now. You have to handle this on your own. Our great UU prophet Emerson talked about self-reliance. Obviously, I can be fine on my own. That wasn't the self-reliance Emerson was talking about. That's another sermon. But we have this strong bootstraps mentality. There is something wrong in asking for help. There is something wrong in admitting weakness that we are told from day one. And I get that. I really get that idea. You cannot be raised in white Protestant America without getting that idea. Because think about our problems. What's talking about your problem going to do? Some of us may think, you know what, my problem is so small compared to everybody else's problems, right? Right? The problem that I'm worried about having a teenage daughter going off to college is nothing compared to someone who lost a spouse, right? My problem is nothing. Or maybe your problem is too big to talk about. Maybe, I can't, some of the most horrible things that have happened in this world. What if you lost a loved one? And it's so big, I can't talk about it because you can't help. There is no way to fix this, so why talk about it? Maybe we don't want to talk about it because it's too soon. This just happened and I am still really sore. Or maybe we're still resolving it and it's too late. And if I haven't gotten over it by now, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Really, I'm fine. Really. So what happens when we put that really I'm fine down? What happens when we set aside time to talk and to face it? What happens when we get brave? Sometimes that counter response to I'm fine, that let's talk, maybe some of you have done this, maybe some of you have been a part of this. Someone asks you, how are you doing? I really need to talk right now. And I usually see this amongst two women. I'm going to pull you away to a quiet corner where we can talk about this, right? How many of you have seen that or done that? That's one of my big ones. The other one that I see a lot, especially in crowd situation, is I really want to talk to you about this, but I can't right now. Can we set up a time? Yeah. Yes, we can. I love Ivy's response to this, because someone who's done this work before, you get it. You really get it. Because this is what the heart of pastoral care is about. It's counteracting that narrative of really I'm fine, and providing that space for people to talk. Now, how many of you have heard that term, pastoral care, and still really don't know what that is? All right, sermon's done, go home. Pastoral care is a weird concept. How many of you think that this is nearly identical to psychotherapy? Very good. Very much not. There's a huge similarity, isn't there? Because what happens a lot with psychotherapy, talk therapy, is you get big open-ended questions and you're expected to think about them and have big answers to them, right? Hopefully. But then what happens usually near the end of a session, our time is just about to wrap up. And here's what I'd like you to do. A therapist has been trained academically and instinctually to offer you a tool, offer you something at the end, right? There is a little advice there because they are so well trained, because they have the academic backing behind it. Pastoral care is different because it's not academically based. It's based in spiritual care. What does spiritual care mean? Especially in this crowd. Do we all believe in the same spirit? No. So how do we all do unilateral spiritual care? How do we do spiritual care that fits everyone? I'd like to offer you this definition of how I feel about what spiritual means. I've offered this before. Spiritual is a connection to something greater. Spiritual is a connection to something greater. And I love this because you don't have to have a theology that is dogmatic to believe in something greater. The idea of the humanists believing that it is within ourselves to make this world a better place is something greater. The idea of the pagans that our ancestors and the earth are something greater. The theists have had something greater forever. Even just believing that there is something within you that is divine, and that you are supposed to create beauty in this universe is something greater. So if pastoral care is based in the idea to connect to something greater, how does that work? It's a cat in the sunbeam. It's those sliced bananas. It's those small moments of beauty that make you feel there's something good in this world. But perhaps for me, the most important thing about pastoral care is that it allows you to lay naked all of your pain, all of your hurt, and to not be judged, to be loved for everything that you are. We're not solving anything. We're just recognizing the beauty that you have. We are reconnecting you to something larger. And that something larger is each other. To just be able to say, how can I mend you, sweet soul? How can I make you feel that you are worthy again? How can I simply honor your pain by saying, that is hard, I am here for you. Even if I don't have an answer, I have myself, and it is yours. And just like those flowers, when pastoral care starts, it connects communities. It shows the ethos of love that is in this congregation, that is within all of us. I hope that you will remember those sweet souls who stood up here, and Steve and Gail. And that when you're feeling in need, that you'll feel comfortable approaching them. And I'm here too. It's part of my job. And I've told many of you who've sought pastoral care with me before, it is the most sacred and the best part of my job, is to recognize the sweet souls that are within each and every one of you. You are beautiful people. You are worthy of love and attention. Never, ever, ever forget that. That is why we're here. May it be so. Let us close our service. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing hymn, How Could Anyone? Please be seated. I want you to ask each other how you're doing today. And if you're fine, I want you to say, I'm fine. And if you're not comfortable maybe bearing your soul to this person, stop for a minute, think about it. And I invite you to feel a little brave. Remember that many people here love you in ways that you may never imagine. You are beautiful. You are loved.